You're listening to the #1 podcast for nonprofit leaders, getting your nonprofit fully funded. This is the Fundraising Masterminds podcast. Well, welcome to the Fundraising Masterminds podcast, where we talk about practical biblical principles of all things nonprofit. I'm your host, Jason Galicinski, and with me, my co-host, Jim Dempsey.
Hey, Jason.
Hey, and we got over 60 years of development experience working for thousands of nonprofits over the country over the years. And today, we are going to be starting a 3-part series on marketing.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to diving deep into these subjects.
Me too.
So the first one, we're going to talk about marketing myths. And then our next episode, we're going to get into specifically content and what type of content should be in our marketing messages.
Yep.
And then the third one, we're going to talk about segmentation and go into detail there. So before we get into episode 1, which is myths of marketing, go ahead and smash that subscribe button if you're watching us on YouTube, or we also have podcast episodes. If you're interested in taking us on the road on your commute to work, you can listen to us wherever podcasts are being broadcast. We're also on social media, so you can look us up at Fundraising Masterminds. But let's talk about marketing today, Jim.
Absolutely.
What are some of the big myths of marketing for nonprofits?
Well, I'd have to say the biggest myth going around right now is that social media is the solution to all your issues and your problems as a nonprofit leader. That a good social media ad or an Instagram post, a reel is going to solve all your marketing problems. And it's going to bring in all the dollars that you need to become fully funded.
And I think the reason why we think that way is because we see a lot of big accounts that have millions of followers, and we see that they are making money. But they're making money through what way in particular?
Well, through different channels and streams of income. The big one is Mr. Beast. He's the #1 standard right now. For most nonprofit organizations, if they even hit the 1,000 mark, they're not going to be bringing in streams of income. But we have found through our research that individuals just don't go to a social media post and make a gift off a social media post.
So we're not actually saying that social media is bad, right? There's a place for social media for a nonprofit, but what we're talking about is what is the likelihood of someone becoming a partner of your organization as a result of social media. Now, we do believe that there is a social media strategy that should be implemented, but the expectation of if I do the right reels, if I create the right, if I dance the right dance, or if I do the right thing or say the right thing, or if I just get enough followers, the just pure numbers of just, if I can get 10,000 followers, no, 20,000 followers, no, 100,000 followers, then my nonprofit will be the next big thing.
All my problems are going to be solved. Yeah, you're absolutely right, and that is definitely a big myth in this day and age. Now, remember, let's go back to our development basics from the standpoint that there are 3 key elements to development: public relations, recruitment, and fundraising. And oftentimes you can have strategies that are going to be great for public relations, great for recruitment of staff, volunteers, part-time workers, and then great for fundraising. Very rarely do you find something that hits on all segments, and we'll talk about that soon. But really, social media isn't so much for recruitment and fundraising as it is for public relations. And that's one of the things we've got to remember. Getting our message out to the general public is not a bad thing. That's a good thing. Getting people to know who we are, what we do, and that we exist is an important thing. But we need to utilize we need to piggyback off of that public relations.
Well, and I think a lot of myths come from the business world, which has kind of the marketing idea of, hey, if I can give enough money to Facebook, and if I can give enough money to Google, with Google ads, Facebook ads, YouTube ads, Instagram, whatever, kind of like if I can put $1 in, I'll get $2 out. We kind of take that idea to the ministry world or the nonprofit world, and we think, well, if I can get enough people to watch me or follow me or to believe in my cause, that they're going to automatically become invested givers, right? And that's not necessarily true.
No.
In fact, you can spend more time focusing on social media, because what we've learned over the years is that the algorithm, everyone talks about the algorithm, right? The algorithm is like this beast that's always being modified, and we're all trying to serve this algorithm.
It's the great unknown.
Yeah, right. But, you know, there is validity to the fact that the algorithm tends to favor people who post more,
right?
Because the goal of the social media platform is not really to help you as an individual become an influencer. The goal actually is to keep people locked into their platform.
That's right.
YouTube doesn't really care what you create, as long as what you create keeps people on YouTube.
Right.
It's
and all about views.
And gets them to watch for the longest amount of time.
That's right.
Then
Duration.
YouTube is happy, right? So they care about frequency, and they care about
duration,
right? And it's the same with Instagram. It's the same with Facebook. It's the same with TikTok.
Right.
You know, so in a way, for us to think that if I can get enough followers, if I can get enough views, if I can do the right thing, that people are going to come on. It's really an entertainment platform.
Oh,
it's really designed to keep people entertained and just to keep them engaged in whatever.
Right.
So the benefit of social media is that it does give you a sense of credibility.
Right.
For example, if I wanted to give to the Girl Scouts, and I wanted to give to a homeless shelter, and the Girl Scouts were on social media and they were showing different things of what they did, but the homeless shelter wasn't.
Right.
You know, I'm going to probably think a little bit more highly of, you know, the Girl Scouts.
Right. Yeah.
So there is that kind of impression that, hey, these guys are out there, they're doing something, they're active.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what, you know, the public relations, that's
Absolutely,
what you're talking about there, right?
Well, and it promotes your mission, vision, values. If you can get those things out there, it's going to make you stand out above the crowd, because really it's all about uniqueness, isn't it? It really is about what separates you from everyone else. I always use the analogy that Colgate doesn't want to compete with Crest. Mm-hmm. They know they're going to lose if they go head to head with Crest, but they emphasize the things that are different. We've got more whiteners, we've got more brighteners. Your nonprofit organization needs to do the same thing. Right. If you're a homeless shelter and there's a homeless shelter down the street that's been in existence for 100 years, you've been in existence for 10 years, what makes you different? Immediately, they're going to get the advantage because they've been around for 100 years.
Right.
So what makes you different from them? What makes you unique? Is there a target audience that you reach that they don't? That's what makes it different.
Now, the trap, though, that nonprofit leaders fall into is where you do start your social media presence to build awareness, right? But then when there's a need that comes up, like let's say with my organization, I run a nonprofit in Zambia, and we recently had a need where a truck broke down and we needed to do some fundraising for a new truck. Right. So now immediately I'm thinking, okay, I've got people following me on YouTube and people following me on Instagram and Facebook. So I need to let them know about this need. Right. Or I need to start a fundraising campaign where I'm going to post about the need, or I'm going to put a video out and I'm going to start asking people for money on these platforms. Right. So you got the nonprofit account who is, you know, talking about what they're doing and all that. And part of what they do is fundraising from time to time. So isn't it okay for me to, you know, publish a fundraising page or to say, hey, we're trying to raise money for blank, you know, or some people are very aggressive, right? They're like, you know, it's Giving Tuesday, we're trying to raise $10,000 for X, you know, and then they're posting on social media every day, you know, 5,000 left, you know, we're almost there. We've hit 30% of our goal, you know, and the fundamental question I'm trying to ask is social media the right place to convert people from being aware of your ministry or your organization to actual long-term partners? Is that the right place to do that?
Well, I believe it isn't. And I think, first of all, you have to go back to, do you have a plan for marketing? Because what happens is that too many nonprofit organizations, they don't have a consistent plan for promotion. They will go weeks without posting something, and then all of a sudden, please send us money for a truck. You've got to have consistency in your promotion. First of all, you need to be out there so that if you present a need or an opportunity, that it's not inconsistent or it isn't to appear that all these guys do is ask for money. But in reality, social media is really designed to surface those people who have an interest in what you're doing. I'll call them future or potential partners.
Right.
That's what this is doing. Too many nonprofit organizations think that they're going to get direct dollars from social media, and it just doesn't happen. It's more difficult even for businesses to get direct sales from social media, let alone let someone to go in, a skeptical individual as a potential donor, to all of a sudden become a donor or a partner of yours on social media.
So I think a lot of the mistakes that people make is that they look at social media as there's this big mass group of people, and I want them to know everything that I'm doing.
Right.
So if I can just get as many people aware of what I'm doing, then those people will just jump on.
Right. And they'll automatically become donors. That's the thought.
And that's because why wouldn't they care about the homeless, right?
Yeah.
Or why wouldn't they care about my cause, whatever your cause is?
Right.
I think that's the trap of social media. Yeah. And what we need to start thinking about is that it's really more of a funnel. So if you could picture it more as, with a funnel, you've got a big ring at the top, and you've got a small ring at the bottom, right? And you're trying to get the masses to go through your funnel.
And it starts with interested individuals. That's all it is in the beginning.
So at the beginning, the social media is your big circle, right? That's your big audience. You're just trying to make people aware that you exist. Right. And really, what is the goal of social media other than just to make people aware that you exist and to possibly the next stepping stone in the funnel, right? To go a little further would be to collect their email or to collect their phone number. Right. And that's really our goal. Right. So, so in our social media, when we're talking about social media, we're really trying to make people aware, get people interested, and then maybe there's some things that we can do and this takes a lot of creativity. Like there's not like a one, we can't sit here and tell you this is what you have to do because it's different for every person, it's different for every business. So you really have to think, you have to sit down and you have to think, okay, what can we do to try to get emails from people? Or what can we do to try to get a mobile number? It might be something as simple as you have a volunteer opportunity for the homeless shelter, but in order to serve as a volunteer, we need your email so we know who you are. But email is a big piece of that. And that's a way that you can, collect people's emails or their phone numbers.
Or offer them something that is of value to them. Right. And that, we will send you Dr. Yusuf's daily devotional and, a sheet that will be useful to you. Yeah, exactly. I always liken these kinds of things so often to dating. And what is dating? It's really going from person to person to person to find that connection, find an individual who has interest in you and you have interest in them. This is very much like dating in that you're trying to surface interested individuals. There are a lot of people that scan through Instagram and other social media things. Something's going to catch their eye, and it starts with, an ad that grabs their attention. Right. And it doesn't drive them to, I'm going to marry you today. It drives them to, you know what, this is somebody I'd like to get to know a little bit more. And so you need to be thinking about the fact that if what my first step is, if I can just find interested individuals, then I can start doing some target marketing and try and connect with them individually.
You'll see a lot of stores nowadays, right? Like you'll see this at Dollar General, you'll see this at Walmart. They'll ask you, do you prefer to have a physical receipt or would you like your receipt emailed? Sure. And our perception is that we think that we're saving the planet because we're saving paper.
Or they're making it more convenient for us.
Yeah, they're making it. It's like, I don't want a piece of paper. Oh, that's paper's bad, Right. But the reality of what's going on here is they're trying to get emails.
Absolutely.
Because if they get your email, they can take you down the next level.
Well, they can track you for the rest of your life. Right. It's just, phone numbers and email addresses are the one thing that go through life with us. Right. And so it's so valuable to get those.
Yeah. So really, talking about the funnel, right? We've got social media. We're not saying that social media is bad necessarily, but we're saying social media has a place.
Right.
And we're saying don't expect to fundraise on social media. It's probably one of the worst things you can do as a nonprofit organization is run a fundraising campaign through social media. The people who give to my nonprofit and your nonprofit are people who already know us.
Right.
99.9% of the time, it's people you already know, people who already know and have a connection to you. They know who you are and they feel comfortable, right? So it's all going back to what we said in our previous episodes. It's all about friend-raising, not fundraising. So the difference between those two, can you remind our audience just real quick, what's the difference between friend-raising and fundraising?
Well, again, fundraising is focusing in on the dollars. It doesn't matter that you want a long-term relationship with someone. You could care less about a long-term relationship with someone. What matters is the dollar that I get today. True friend-raising is looking at the long-term value of a partner, of having that person with you for a lifetime.
It's a relationship.
It is. And I've raised my own personal support for the last 38 years, and I don't believe that people would give for 38 years if I didn't have a relationship with them.
But we get sucked into the mindset of treating people like dollars.
And having that immediate gift is so important.
We get sucked into it because it works.
Yeah.
Like I've done fundraising campaigns and
raised a good amount of money.
I've raised a good amount of money and it works. I mean, you can do it. And you can raise, there's some people that raise hundreds of thousands of dollars a year.
With a-thons or whatever. I
mean, this is kind of drives me crazy, but my wife, here's a story for you.
Okay.
My wife, it was at Christmas last year. And, we got a call. We don't usually answer spam calls or calls we don't recognize, but we happened to answer this one. And this guy ended up giving her a sap story about, is a guy from the local fire chief or whatever.
Sure.
And he's like, would you mind supporting your local fire chief for $25 this Christmas? They really are short, whatever. So she's like, all right, okay, I'll do it. So she did it, right? Literally every day. The next year, like a year from now.
Right.
Every day.
She got a call.
For like 3 months.
Yeah.
It wouldn't stop.
Yeah.
It was like insane. And they were like, you gave a gift of $25 last year. Can we count on you for this year? And I was like, no, go away. We don't, and it was like, they just kept calling and calling and calling and calling. It's like, I want to throw my phone up.
Yeah.
I actually started blocking their calls because I didn't know how to stop them.
Right.
And then they just started changing because I started blocking, any area code of this number. Block, and then the area code started changing.
Sure.
It was the same people, and I just felt as a person, it almost felt like violation.
Oh, yeah.
It's like they don't care about me at all. They just want my money.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I don't care about I don't know anything about what happened with my money.
Right.
I don't know if they used it for anything or if they're just scam. Like it almost starts to put this bad taste in your mouth. Like
that's right.
Maybe these guys are, scammers and they're not, they pretend to work for the fire department or something.
Well, and sometimes there's a guilt motivation in there too, especially with these service organizations. I get a call from the police association. And if I say no, I'm a little worried that next time I've got an issue, somebody breaking into my house. Jim Dempsey turned us down for the services. So you have to worry about that. That's a great story. Jason, one of the things that I appreciate what you said earlier was that the frequency and how of simply asking. Not only is it not valuable for you to ask for money, you can really overdo an appeal because again, in the dating situation, think about if every first date you ask someone to marry you, that would start to creep somebody out. If someone brought up marriage in the first date, well, I'd be heading out the door right away. And I know most women who dated me would be the same way.
Right.
But we do that in social media. We're asking people when that's not the purpose of social media.
So again, I think we're trying to say that social media isn't necessarily bad, but we have to put it in its place, right?
Yes,
so social media is at the top of the funnel.
That's right.
And we're trying to build those relationships. We're trying to get people interested And it's a very, very, very loose, hey, we're out here kind of thing. Right. The next layer in is we get their emails, we get their phone numbers, we get their address in some way, which isn't like a spammy kind of way, but a genuine, like they actually want to give us that because of something they're interested in. Right. And
now we can start targeting them.
Okay. So and so really it gets me to what the real thing that we're trying to get to is what we call direct marketing. And direct marketing is really made up of 4 key components, right? We've got email marketing, we've got text marketing, which is kind of a new thing these days. We've got calling, and we've got snail mail. Right. And believe it or not, snail mail, even though people don't think of it that much anymore, that's the thing where you actually get paper in the mail, right? Yeah. That actually is still one of the number one things.
Exactly. It's still extremely effective. I'm not a big responder. In fact, I can't remember the last time I responded to email, but I use it all the time, and it brings in a lot of dollars because there are individuals who still respond to direct mail.
So now, why is direct marketing? So direct marketing, remember, is email, phone number, calling people.
Is the umbrella.
Right. So direct marketing is the umbrella. So why is direct marketing so effective compared to something like social media?
Well, it really comes down to targeting. Once again, using your great analogy of the funnel, you're moving people down into the funnel, and you're moving them down to a more personal connection. Social media is just blanketing people. It's a shotgun approach. When you start to use target marketing and you start to use direct marketing as a whole, you're drilling down on people, and you're drilling down a relationship.
Right. You're really using key metrics.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? So one of our episodes last time, we talked about you want to get the 20% right involved in
bringing
the
80%
life
of your dollars,
principles. Right. So how do you identify those 20%? Well, through direct marketing.
Yes. Right. Yeah. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to deepen the relationship with people. Mm-hmm. Even, believe it or not, even if your email or your snail mail says, "Dear friend," that's still more targeted and more of a rifle shot than your social media is. So you're moving people down that funnel and connecting them individually. You can begin challenging them individually.
Well, I think another big piece of social media versus direct marketing is social media is all driven by the algorithm. Right. So it's all about engagement. It's all about length of time. There's all these factors, right? And so the one perception of social media is that, hey, if I post it and I have 1,000 people that follow me, it's going to go to 1,000 people. That maybe was true 15 years ago when Facebook was invented, but it doesn't work that way anymore, right? There's so many people posting so much stuff that Facebook and Instagram and all those guys are actually have created what we call an algorithm that decides what you should see and what you shouldn't see. And it's all based on how people interact. It's all based on engagement. So like how many people like it, how many people comment, how many people share, right? If more people like it and more people comment, then they expose it to more people. So it creates this thing where you have to be on this treadmill all the time, creating all this crazy content to try to get engagement just so that other people can see it.
Keep your head above the crowd,
Versus email marketing or text marketing or phone calls or snail mail. If I have a mailing list of 10,000 people and I get 10,000 envelopes and put 10,000 addresses on there, does the U.S. Postal Service have an algorithm that decides which letters end up in which mailboxes?
Well, they don't. And typically we find that on a good mailing, you're going to get 2% response. And so it's not the most targeted, but it definitely is more targeted than social media.
It's just the sense that it actually gets to the destination.
Oh, absolutely.
That's the big thing that I'm trying to point out.
And see, the algorithm in social media is not an exact science. It they in a way we sort of tout that it is, but you're still just putting a message out to a lot of people who could care less. When you get their email address or their phone number, you are beginning to narrow that funnel. You're one step closer to targeting your person who is very interested in you.
Now, okay, so I shouldn't be asking for money on social media, right? So a lot of people think, okay, well, direct marketing is the thing. So I'm going to just start fundraising through email and through text messages and through direct mail. Right. I'm going to just start doing the exact same thing I shouldn't do on social media, but I'm going to do it hardcore in those things. Right. And that doesn't seem to work either.
Well, one of the things we're going to talk about in our third part in this series, we're going to talk about targeting and sending out to individuals who really have an interest in where you're at. Because all of us have given $5 or $10 to a nonprofit organization, and we've gotten emails or letters every month for the next 25 years. They far surpassed our $25 in postal expenses, 10 years prior to that. So really, they're mailing into a loss with me, and that's not effective use of marketing for sure. No.
Well, I'm trying to get back to it's the fundraising mindset versus the fundraising
absolutely.
mindset. Right. Yeah. So I'm not saying that if we do direct marketing and we just take the same fundraising mindset and just do it to email, phones, and texting, that suddenly it's going to work.
No,
right? Yeah. Because the idea of the funnel, really what you need to be thinking about is with the funnel is I'm getting introduced to people, and as they go through my funnel, I'm trying to build a relationship with them. I'm trying to get to know them as a person. Yeah. Right? Because they're real people. Yes. And they want to get to know you, and you want to get to know them as much as you can, right? And really, at the end of the day, when they come out at the bottom, you really want to get to the point where you can meet them in person.
They are
you want to go out to lunch with them
by that time,
right? And so it literally is like, hey, I found this person on social media. I loved what they had to do, and like 2 years later, you're having lunch with them, right? And they write you a check for $25,000, because of that relationship.
Yeah. Well, there are definitely different layers of effectiveness, and that's one of the things that I believe we need to remember. Social media is effective and has a purpose, but it's very broad. What happens when we start to use direct marketing, we make it more effective, but it isn't really effective, the most effective, till we go down and we drill down deeper and have that individual personal relationship. In the first couple areas, we're dealing more with fundraising than we are with fundraising. When we start to get to the tip of the bottom of the funnel, that's when we're starting to do fundraising, and that's when you're going to see maximum effectiveness.
One of the goals with fundraising versus fundraising is to build that relationship, and ultimately we want to get to the point where we are meeting people in person and we're actually talking to them and getting to know them on a face-to-face basis. And we think that one of the best ways to do that is through an event. But not just any event, because there's lots of events. Certainly there's a gazillion types of events that nonprofits do. But we believe one of the best ways to meet new people
and build friends
is through a vision dinner. And that is exactly why we created the Perfect Vision Dinner course. We just released this recently, and it's a 20-week complete walkthrough of the mindset. We go into really good detail on the mindset behind why you need a vision dinner, how the vision dinner works, and just, the different myths of dinners, banquets, galas. There's all kinds of different formats, of this dinner. But we believe that after 38 years of trying everything wrong, we've finally cracked the secrets of what actually works to build those relationships, because it's all about building those relationships. And once we've built that trust and people buy into your vision and your mission and your values, then they become partners. And that partnership is really what carries your nonprofit to the finish line.
Well, it's one of the biggest layers of your target marketing. It really ratchets up your effectiveness, your connection with people. Certainly mailings are a connection and their communication, but it really ratchets it up when you can have your executive director, key leaders in a position up front, in a prominent position. You can hear about the mission, vision, value of the organization. It is an unbelievable way to connect. A connection happens at those events almost like no other.
And it really does create long-term partners.
Right.
And long-term partners are what we're going for. So the main difference between fundraising, that's that police department that kept calling me every single day.
Quick.
Right? Sure, it works.
Right.
My wife did give $25, but we never want to talk to them ever again.
Right. They actually destroyed the relationship.
Destroyed the relationship, right? Versus the fundraising, right, is like you're investing in people, you're getting to know them as a person, and you're inviting them to be a part of the mission, vision, and values of your organization to actually
for the long haul. Yeah.
And that's what actually carries the mission of the nonprofit forward. So that's super, super important.
Right.
Well, I think we're going to wrap it up for today's episode. I just really enjoyed talking to you about just marketing basics, going through the myths of social media, and not that social media is bad, right? Like we're not saying social media is bad.
Yeah.
We're just saying don't expect to do a full-scale fundraising campaign on social media and raise $100,000. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, that's right.
So we're trying to share with people just how to use social media effectively and really kind of thinking of it like a funnel.
Right.
Thinking of it as we want to introduce people to our organization. We want to get them down into our funnel. And we ultimately want to build that friendship with the people.
Right.
So that we can invite them into a partnership. And join us in the mission.
Yeah. Well, I hope our listeners join us for the next episode because we're going to be really talking about content of your marketing pieces.
In the next episode, we're going to be talking about what makes up great content. We're going to be talking about 3 things you must have in all your content pieces.
And if you don't have them,
if something isn't working, it's because of these one of 3 things.
So make sure you're here for the next broadcast.
Yes. So definitely click that subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube. Subscribe if you're listening to us on the podcast. They're found wherever podcasts are broadcast.
Once again, I just appreciate so much that you were able to be with us today. This broadcast, we do this podcast specifically to help the nonprofit organization leader who wants to take their organization to the next level and wants to be effective in management, in leadership, and especially who wants to raise more money for their organization and become fully funded. So we are really committed to seeing practical biblical principles in all things nonprofit. So join us for our next broadcast, and we'll see you out there in the future.